talk today. Yeah, my subject is women's health problems and the living foods lifestyle. And the reason I'm interested in talking about this issue is A, I'm a woman, and B, I've been on a all raw food diet of fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds for the last 4.5 years and have experienced tremendous benefit personally for my own health in doing that. And also, I've also been a student of health for many years, and I'm now working as a health counsellor and natural health consultant, which actually means that I coach people in how to live a healthy lifestyle and how to identify and remove the causes of disease in their life. I don't use any treatments, herbs or mineral therapies or anything like that. I'm focusing purely on health education and communicating to people how they can take control of their own health and learn to live a healthy lifestyle. Because the principles, the natural hygiene principles on which I work, basically maintain that health is the result of healthful living and nothing else. Treatments for disease don't improve our health. All they do is suppress symptoms or modify symptoms. And really the only way to improve your health is to remove the causes of disease. So we need to understand what are the causes of disease in our current Western lifestyle. And I believe that, particularly in the area of women's health, from all the research I have studied, I believe that one of the major culprits for women's health problems is the diet of animal products and refined processed foods. No matter what sort of women's health issue you look at, whether it's breast cancer, osteoporosis, endometriosis, PMT, PMS, or breast cancer, the high protein, high fat animal product diet is implicated as a #1 cause. So by being vegans, we're not only liberating animals, we're also liberating ourselves and taking a major step on the path towards eliminating the causes of disease. There is a lot of myths and intellectual blackouts and confusion in the whole area of women's health. To give you an example, osteoporosis is presented as a disease of calcium deficiency, and that the solution to osteoporosis is presented as consuming more dairy products, drinking more milk and taking calcium supplements. But the actual fact is, the epidemiological research shows that it's the countries with the highest consumption of dairy products that also have the highest rate of osteoporosis. So it actually is a myth that osteoporosis is a calcium deficiency disease, and it's also a myth that osteoporosis is an estrogen deficiency disease that only can be corrected by taking synthetic hormones. From the research I've studied, it's quite clear that osteoporosis is related to a high protein diet. When you're on a high protein diet, the liver converts the excess amino acids to urea, and urea is a powerful diuretic, and when the kidneys eliminate urea, it also takes with it calcium. And where does the body get its calcium? It gets it from the bones. And generally speaking, a high protein diet is an acid forming diet, so you get an acid tide in the blood, and because the blood has to be slightly alkaline at 7.4, then of course the body has to neutralise the acid tide in the blood by using an alkaline mineral like calcium, and it leaches it from the bones. So if you're on a high protein diet, which probably none of you here are, then you're going to be in negative calcium balance no matter how many calcium supplements you take or how much milk you drink. So that is one example of some of the intellectual blackouts that occur in women's health, because it relates to very powerful food industries in our culture, which are the meat and dairy industries. So they're not going to promote truth in the area of women's health, and neither are the pharmaceutical companies who make large profits out of pathologising women and turning them into basic perpetual patients that need constant treatment, drugging, need to have their uteruses removed, and they have recently redefined menopause as an estrogen deficiency disease rather than a natural phase of women's life cycle. And thus they are promoting the myth that all women basically after or around menopause and after menopause have to be taking synthetic estrogens to prevent heart disease, to prevent osteoporosis and various other symptoms like hot flushes, etc. Now this is a huge hoax being perpetrated on womankind, that we can only sort of maintain our normality by taking synthetic estrogens, which have been shown in the long term to actually increase the risk of breast cancer by 50%. If you're taking HRT for more than 5 or 6 years, it has actually been shown to increase the risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer and uterine cancer. So, you know, to get rid of a few hot flashes, you then incur the risk, and a few other symptoms like vaginal dryness that women experience in menopause, you actually incur the risk of getting cancer. So I think women need to really take back their personal power in relation to health and really take back their responsibility about health and not hand it over to doctors and experts and the pharmaceutical companies, because they do not have a good track record of looking after women's well-being and their interests. So it's really up to women to take back their power and take back our control over our bodies. And the way we do that is to learn about health. What are the conditions and requirements of a healthy lifestyle? What are the causes of disease? How can I remove the causes of disease in my own lifestyle? And I think the fact that you're all here at a vegan conference, you've already taken a big step in relation to that, because you already omitted the animal products, and they are the major cause of heart disease, major cause of all types of cancer that are related to the high-fat, high-protein diet, particularly breast cancer. In countries where, like the Netherlands and Scandinavia, that have a very high-fat intake in the diet because of their consumption of dairy products, breast cancer is the highest. And countries like China and Japan, where they're mainly on vegetarian diets, low protein, low fat, very low incidence of breast cancer. But yet when Japanese women move from Japan and take on the Western diet, and move to America for instance, and take on the Western diet, their incidence of breast cancer will jump to match the incidence of breast cancer in America. And that, to me, indicates that dietary environmental factors are primary in breast cancer and not your genetic history, or whether you've had a child before 30 or after 30. So I think the primary, if women could get this information about the protective effect of eating a whole food plant-based diet, and I think the reason a whole food plant-based diet is so very good for women's health problems is that it helps to regulate women's hormonal balance. Most of women's health problems such as PMS, PMT, endometriosis, breast cancer, menopausal symptoms are due to imbalances in the hormones of estrogen and progesterone. And when we get excess estrogen levels due to a high animal product diet, then we set the stage for cancer to develop, tumours and cancer to develop, because, and other menstrual symptoms like excessive bleeding and painful menstruation, because animal products, they're high in fat and cholesterol, and the body synthesises estrogen from cholesterol, and they also have, the animals are fed now growth hormones, which are synthetic estrogens. So when you're eating a diet of animal products, you're getting a double whammy dose of estrogens, basically, because you're getting it from the cholesterol, which your body synthesises estrogen from cholesterol, and you're also getting it from the growth hormones that are already in the animal products. And I think it's already having an effect on young girls who are going into menarche, which is onset of menstruation, a lot earlier now. Because of this, and they're actually maturing earlier than nature originally designed. You know, 100 years ago, the normal onset of menstruation for young girls was about 17 years old, and now young girls are already getting their periods at 10, 11, 12, even younger, 9 and 8. They're already developing breasts, and they're already going into menarche. And that is because of the animal product diet and the fact that the animal products are already laced with synthetic growth hormones, and the fact that it is a high-fat diet anyway, which will lead to estrogen excess. So I think the reason why a plant-based diet is so good for women's health problems is that it leads to a much better hormonal balance, which eliminates all the sort of symptoms of inflammatory type symptoms of PMS and PMT. And also, on a plant-based diet, you're going to get a lot lower level of toxin build-up in your system. And when you study the natural hygiene principles, they maintain that one of the basic causes of all disease is a toxic state of blood and tissues. So the biggest secret of health for anyone, whether you're female or male, is to keep your body in a non-toxic state as much as possible. I mean, the body cells are creating toxins all the time. There is a natural metabolic waste that the cells are producing all the time. And then there is also the toxins coming from our environment and our food and the drugs we take. So that is the super added level of toxins. But all the time our body is creating metabolic waste that has to be eliminated. So health really is this balance between good nutrition and elimination of waste products. Now when that balance goes out of kilter because of bad nutrition and taking drugs and getting tired and other health destroying practices, then your body's not going to be able to eliminate the waste products as well, and then you get a rise of toxins building up in the system. And when we get to that toxic state of the blood and tissues over a long period of time, we're actually setting the stage for more serious diseases down the track, such as cancer. And a very good book on breast cancer, if you can ever get it, is this book, You Can Prevent Breast Cancer by Harvey Diamond.
I read this one.
Yeah, it's very excellent. He's the co-author of Fit for Life. Have you heard of that book?
I don't know if it works.
Have you tried it?
Well, I've tried it, but I don't know if it works.
Right.
You have to work, I suppose, try it for a long, long time, and you still don't know, you know.
Yeah, well, the basic principle of his approach to breast cancer, he basically says, well, what is cancer? And he says it's basically normal cell driven crazy by exposure to toxins. There's a build-up of toxins in the cell on a chronic level, and in the end it just drives the cell crazy. It's no longer under control of the brain, and so it just multiplies at a crazy rate. And that's basically what breast cancer is. And his advice to women is that it's very connected to the function of the lymph system, because the lymph system is the system that removes the wastes from the cells. And that's why if you're toxic, you'll get the swelling of lymph nodes, because that's the job of the lymph system, is to remove the waste. And if it's overwhelmed by toxins, well, then you'll get the situation of swelling of nodes and lumps in the breast. Now, the medical approach is basically to cut out the disease, attempt to cut out the disease, which just really means they're trying to cut out the symptoms, and they're cutting off women's breasts and they're cutting out your lymph nodes, right? Now that really is akin to cutting out your bladder because it's full of urine, because the function of the lymph nodes is to remove toxins from the body. So naturally, if you're in a highly toxic state, the lymph nodes are going to swell and you're going to get lumps in the breast. And some of those lumps can become cancerous. So by cutting out lymph nodes, that is not the solution, because you're only removing the symptoms and not treating the causes. So really, that's a very good book to read if you're concerned about breast cancer, and it is the major cancer for all women in Western societies. And with all the medical approaches that we've had over the last 50 years on breast cancer, it's made not one iota of difference, because the incidence of breast cancer and the death rate from breast cancer has been steadily rising all the time. So that in itself should alert us to realising that there is something wrong with the medical approach of just treating symptoms, removing organs, and chemotherapy and radiation therapy. It does not work, because women are still dying at alarming rates. So the alternative natural hygiene approach to health is A, to remove the causes of disease, live and eat in such a way that you keep the level of toxins in your body at a very low level. And the best way to do that is, as Renee has probably already said, is to eat raw food. Because raw food is the least toxifying food that you can eat. And that's actually been scientifically demonstrated, because after you eat a cooked meal, researchers have observed that you actually get leukocytosis, which actually means an increase in the number of white blood cells after a cooked meal. And the white blood cells are the defenders of the body. And so the fact that white blood cells are increasing dramatically after all cooked meal shows that your body is actually responding to that cooked meal as something harmful that it has to defend against. After a raw food meal, there's no leukocytosis. So the best way to keep your body clean inside is to eat as much raw food as possible, and also to eat plant-based food, fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds. And I guess that's where the raw food diet is a little bit different from the ordinary vegan diet, because the vegan diets can still be quite heavily grain-based, but the natural hygiene philosophy is that basically grains are not our natural foods either, because we can't really eat them in their raw natural state. We have to do something to them. We have to process them, we have to grind them, we need to cook them, or we can eat them raw if we sprout them. But basically, then you're eating like a mini vegetable, like when you sprout a grain and you grow a grass, then it actually becomes a vegetable, and if you eat that grass. So basically, the natural hygiene philosophy is that grains are not really our natural foods either, and that the natural foods for the human being is the foods that nature provided for us, and that prevent us from all sorts of degenerative diseases and keep the body in pristine state of health, are your fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds. And that is the most balanced diet, the most optimum balanced diet you can be on it. And it's now being corroborated even by science, so-called, because they are also, all the cancer research is showing that it's fruits and vegetable foods that contain all the nutrients, antioxidants, vitamins, enzymes that will actually protect your body cells from becoming cancerous. So that really is the best health insurance you can give yourself, is to eat a largely raw food diet. You don't have to go necessarily 100% raw, because that only tends to come after you've experimented with high percentages of raw food, and you gradually then get to a point where you may decide you want to go 100% raw. But my own personal experience of health improvements I've got as a woman since I went all raw is quite significant, because I've always suffered from, even from a teenager onwards, I always suffered very much every month from painful menstruation, to the point where I'd have to take a day or two off work, or off school. And and that was when I was on the ordinary SAD diet. Later on in my life, when I started reading for myself, and I actually I changed to a vegan diet, an ordinary cooked and mixed raw and cooked vegan diet, and that also led to significant improvements in my menstrual symptoms. But I still had a day or two of PMT, and I still got some cramping, so that I'm still taking about 4 Panadol every month just to deal with the pain of the cramps. But since I went on to an all raw food diet, the PMT has totally disappeared, and also the cramping has disappeared too. So the only symptoms I have left is I feel a little bit less energetic on the 2 days of my period. It only lasts for 2 days. But overall it's a huge improvement, and my periods are just like a dream compared to what they used to be, the major ordeal which I used to dread. And not to experience any PMT at all, have no sign that you're even, premenstrual or anything, it's just an amazing experience. And also, I've researched women on raw food diets, and they all report the same thing, that their PMT completely goes. If they've suffered from menstrual cramps before, that completely goes. And also the blood flow is significantly reduced. And there are some women on raw food diets who've actually had cessation of menstruation, but they still ovulate. And there are even some women who have had babies whilst being free of menstruation. So that is bringing up a whole lot of issues about, you know, how our culture sees menstruation, and it also explodes the myth that menstruation is necessary for ovulation. It's quite clear from the research into women on raw food diets that it is possible to ovulate without menstruating. And the research into it gives some explanations of why women who've attained a high level of health and in a purity on a raw food diet actually stop menstruating. And some of the theories are that because of the high vitamin C and bioflavonoid content of an all-raw diet, that the capillaries in the endometrium, which is the lining of the uterus, become very strong, and then when the estrogen level drops off just before menstruation, those capillaries being so strong, they don't actually rupture and hemorrhage, and that the blood in the endometrium can just be reabsorbed back into the body. So to me that sounds, when we remember that all natural animals in the wild do not menstruate, but yet when they are captivated and domesticated and fed on the unnatural foods, they start to menstruate. It makes you question whether menstruation is actually natural, in the sense that was it part of our original state of bodily health in a state of nature. And given the fact that many women suffer many symptoms, emotionally, mentally and physically around menstruation, it does make me question whether menstruation in the strictly natural sense was part of our original physiology. I have a feeling that it is to do with unnatural diet of cooked foods and an unnatural lifestyle. But I'm not in any way trying to promote the idea that menstruation is something that we should be ashamed of or anything like that. I think within the confines of a civilised society is a perfectly normal, natural function of women's bodies. But there is a lot of information that does make us question whether it is a truly natural function of the body when we're going back to a natural lifestyle and our natural raw foods. Yes?
What do you think of doctors' opinion that menstruation is important because it detoxifies?
Well, that is true. I think that women on conventional diets, although the menstrual blood is not more toxic than the general blood in the circulation, I think the body can use the menstrual flow as a vicarious means to eliminate toxins.
Right.
But the menstrual blood is not more pure or not more toxic than the rest of the blood in your circulation, because the blood in the circulation is moving through all the time anyway. So it's not like menstrual blood is more toxic, but when the body is going through that menstrual process, the body, of course, is going to use it as a means to eliminate poisons. Yeah. So the fact that some raw food women actually get cessation of menstruation is actually due to the fact that they've attained a level of inner cleanliness and good nutrition, that their body can just actually reabsorb the endometrium back into itself, which I think in some ways is nutritionally a superior thing, because there are quite high levels of nutrients in menstrual blood that women are losing every month, like iron, calcium, magnesium, lecithin and iodine, which are very important to the health of the brain and nervous system. And also, sex hormones are 6 times as concentrated in menstrual blood than other blood. So we are losing a lot of valuable nutrients in menstrual blood, and most women do feel more tired and drained during their periods. So, you know, for women who have got to that level of health, where they're just reabsorbing the endometrium back into themselves, they're actually recycling those nutrients as well. So I'm not suggesting that you necessarily have to aim for that, but I think all women would at least like to be free of the painful symptoms around menstruation. And I really feel from most of the research done so far, my own personal experience, the experience of friends of mine that have done the raw food diet, that really it is the best thing for balancing out women's fertility or menstrual cycle. And it leads to a very good balance of hormones and a very low level of toxins, retained toxins, and thus good nutrition. Because it's often a high level of toxins in the body that prevents good nutrition. So, I think one of the most empowering things women can do is to leave behind our society's cooked food addiction, because I think cooked food does enslave women on other levels through having to focus so much of their time on shopping and cooking and cleaning pans after it. And from that, cooked food addiction becomes women having to spend time nursing sick children, taking children to the doctors, getting medical treatments that suppress symptoms, looking after sick husbands. And I really feel that raw food could liberate women from all those unnecessary chores. Because the raw food's so simple, it's preferably you should grow it yourself, but even if you have to still shop for it, it's, like when I enter a supermarket, I ignore 95% of the supermarket, goes straight to the fruit and vegetables, and the rest of the supermarket to me is not food at all, but some sort of processed, I don't know what, gunk, Renee?
What I feel is that what the women also have to be very careful for is for the medical profession and the doctors, because they are frightening, and I know, and you know those from the network, that I get letters also from people from the network, women, and they are frightened by the doctor. Now you have with your menstruation, oh my God, you should have tablets to bring it on.
That's right.
And that's, women are frightened, and maybe you can talk about that women should really not be frightened for that kind of thing, they shouldn't be afraid for that.
That's right, because, menstruation is not a sign of health. If you look at all the women with painful menstrual symptoms, just having menstruation doesn't indicate that you're in a healthy state. And often the strongest and healthiest, most athletic women either have a very reduced menstrual flow or some have no menstrual flow. So amenorrhea is not necessarily a sign of ill health, and it may in some instances where the body's so, in a toxic woman so depleted it cannot even produce the hormones necessary to carry on that cycle. But it can also be due to actually superior health. And it is true that the more sickly, toxic and weakened women are, the greater tends to be their menstrual flow and symptoms around menstruation. The healthier, fitter you are, the more the menstrual flow tends to decrease, till it gets to the point of almost nothing. And that's certainly been my experience on the raw food diet and the experience of every other woman I've spoken to. So I now question, a lot of the myths we have in our culture about menstruation. And there are a lot of other fears that are always projected to women too, that you're not going to get enough calcium, you're not going to get enough protein, where you're going to get your B12 from and all of that. But there is plenty of calcium in fruits, green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds, and you won't have the problem of your urinary loss of calcium because you're not eating a high protein diet. And what the other factors that interfere with calcium metabolism are things like alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, aluminium-containing antacids, high phosphorus residue foods like soft drinks and all that. All those factors interfere with, and alcohol of course, interfere with calcium metabolism. So you will, and if you're physically active, you will have strong bones on a raw food diet. And also you won't have the menopausal symptoms either, and I've spoken to raw food women who've been on it long enough to experience the transition to menopause, and they said, menopause, what's that? I didn't notice it. And the reason for that is that vegan women have lower levels of estrogen circulating in their blood because they're not getting in the excess estrogens from the animal foods. And because they're not on a high-fat diet, their body isn't synthesising excess estrogen from the cholesterol. So when they get to menopause, they don't have this sharp drop in estrogen levels that women on conventional diets do. So because the hormone levels are more regulated, they're not getting the hot flashes and the mood swings and insomnia and depression and everything that women on conventional diets are. So, and we.
Do the plant-based estrogens work differently, do they?
Yes, well that's the other thing about plant food. It has phytoestrogens in it, and they apparently compete with the body's own natural estrogens for the estrogen receptors in cells, and they are very beneficial because they're not as potent as some of the body's own estrogens. So that, and the other thing is that with women who, because they've had a hysterectomy or ovarectomy, do need some sort of assistance with supplemental hormones, the best hormones to use are the ones, the natural progesterones or estrogens derived from plant foods. And there is a book here by Dr. John Lees, What Your Doctor May Not Tell You About Menopause, and that goes into the whole thing of why conventional HRT is so destructive to women's health, and why, you know, what the natural alternatives to HRT are. And he talks about the natural progesterone products or creams that you just put on your skin that are derived from plants like wild yam and soybeans. And those are natural progesterone. Those creams, the use of those creams haven't been associated with the side effects that the synthetic or horse-based estrogens are linked to. And that's another horrible fact about the HRT treatment, that the primary HRT drug is Premarin. Have you heard of that? Mm-hmm. Now, Premarin comes from pregnant mares' urine. And it is really horrible to read what they do to the mares to collect their urine. They keep them in very small confined spaces so they can't even move around. And they put plastic bags under their urethra to collect the urine. Apparently it's worth $17 a bag or something. And so they're deprived of the natural life. They're kept perpetually pregnant so that the estrogen levels are high in the urine. And when they give birth to the foals are taken away from them, and they're either slaughtered or killed, or they're raised artificially, and some are raised to replace the mares when they're spent. The moment the foal's taken away, they're again re-impregnated. Now imagine if someone did that to us, you know, that we somehow feel we've got the right to do it to animals. So,
what does HRT stand for?
Hormone replacement therapy.
Okay. What was the name of the plant hormone?
The plant hormones are wild yam. There's wild yam cream.
Can you mention another name?
Soybeans. Soybeans. Phytoestrogens. Yeah. Phytoestrogen.
Phyto.
But what is...
Phyto means plant.
Okay.
Yes. What exactly, what are the plants exactly for progesterone?
Well, the ones I'm aware of is wild yam. I think
Wild yam is, it's not progesterone. It's ostrich.
Oh, right. I thought, well, my understanding was that wild yam also, they could make progesterone from
It's
it.
also, but it's for young women.
Well, actually, this is what John Lees is all about. He's questioning the whole idea that menopause is an estrogen deficiency symptom, disease. He's saying that, in fact, the problem is more a deficiency of natural progesterone. Because even after menopause doesn't mean no more estrogen, because you're still, the estrogen only drops by 1/3 or so, because your uterus, if you've still got a uterus, your uterus produces estrogen, your adrenal glands produce estrogen, and your fat cells produce estrogen. And even the ovaries continue some estrogen production for a number of years. So menopause does not mean no more estrogen. And his research is saying that even after menopause, a lot of women tend to still be estrogen dominant relative to progesterone, and he's had a lot of success in treating women with natural progesterone creams, and according to his research, it actually, whereas estrogen only retards the rate of bone loss, progesterone can actually help to build bone up. And he's got quite a lot of he's been working on this for 30 years, got quite a lot of research showing that the medical profession are all barking up the wrong tree, really, because they're so focused on estrogen deficiency, whereas they're not remembering that Mother Nature always balanced the two hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and they're not looking at the levels of progesterone that women have got. But I certainly feel that if you're living on a healthy lifestyle, you won't need natural progesterone creams either. You won't need any of this stuff. And the experience of women on hygienic vegan diets is that they hardly notice menopause, basically, because their bodies are more balanced and well nourished to begin with. So they're not having all these menopausal problems.
Has there been any research done on plant-based diets and the effect of migraines, like in instance of migraines?
Plant-based.
Whether migraines are affected, incidence of migraines are affected?
Yeah, well, it's possible. I mean, I think he has got a section here on migraines and estrogen therapy. I haven't read the whole book yet, but it is possible, yeah. Because, yeah, the sex hormones affect many other systems apart from the reproductive system. So it's quite possible.
Excuse me, given that raw foods encompass a fairly wide range of foods, is there some sort of guide for women and for men that matter that show you where you can get your various nutrients from, so you don't just you might just don't stick to a limited range of raw foods, that you make sure you get calcium and iron and B12 and whatever else?
Yes, there are various books written on the raw food diet, and Renee's actually got quite a good collection of them, which goes into the whole subject of where you get your nutrients from the raw food diet. My feeling is that the way to cover yourself nutritionally on a raw food diet is to eat a broad and diverse range of fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, and small quantities of nuts and seeds. Because many of us, I personally think that the green leafy vegetables are an important part of nutrition, because even the apes in the wild do not eat all fruit, they also eat quite a lot of green leaves and shoots. So my personal belief is that 100% fruit diet may not be strictly natural, and that we were also meant to eat some green leafy plants or leaves. And the green vegetables are higher in the minerals like calcium and magnesium, and they're also slightly higher in protein. And then you have your nuts and seeds are also high in minerals, and they're also a concentrated form of protein. So if you're eating a balance of fruits, green leafy vegetables, I don't think you necessarily have to have starchy vegetables like cauliflower or potatoes or things, but at least have the green leafy vegetables. And also some nuts and seeds. You should cover all your nutritional bases. Yeah?
Well, I'd like to mention that, I think I mentioned it in my talk too, when you have this variety of, what you mentioned, the vegetables, have them organic. Because when you have them organic, and the fruit as well, any fruit you can eat with the skin, and any vegetable you can eat without washing it, without having to know that it is pure fruit, pure vegetable, there is where your B12s and so on, and all your tiny
That's
little...
right. And I've had my B12 tested every year since I went 100% raw food, and it's still within the normal range. And I've had my iron levels have also actually improved on the raw food diet. I was actually iron deficient as a cooked food vegan. When after 12 months on raw food, I had my iron test done again, and the iron levels had shot up very significantly. And the folate levels are off the chart, the folic acid levels.
What's folic acid used for?
Well, folic acid is, it's very important for the health of your blood and nervous system. It's got many wide-ranging uses in the body. Yeah. Even strength of capillaries, because I know, strength of capillaries too, because I know that they, if for babies for mothers who've been on folic acid deficient diets, I think they give them a vitamin K injection at birth to strengthen their blood vessels so they don't hemorrhage through birth. But certainly on a vegan diet you'll get plenty of folic acid.
And also to prevent spinal bifida in a born child. So it's very important for the pregnant woman to...
It's very important for a pregnant woman to have plenty of folic acid in her diet. But I certainly, I think your nutrition will improve dramatically on a raw food, predominantly raw food diet, and you won't need any supplements anymore, so save a lot of money. and also your joy of living improves tremendously. You feel a lot lighter, you feel incredibly mentally and emotionally serene. And I was doing my raw food diet, even though I had a very stressful job, I was actually handling my job a lot better on 100% raw food, and I never thought I could do that. I always thought in the past that I'd had to have some stimulants at least to help me cope with this stressful job. But I discovered to my surprise that I actually could do my job on 100% raw food diet. And I feel a lot mentally, emotionally calmer, and it's very good for meditation, for those of you who are interested in that. It seems to just lead to a more peaceful biochemistry where the mind is just more naturally at ease and serene. And
excuse me, do you have any cold pressed oils or anything like that?
No, because in the natural hygiene philosophy, which I tend to follow, they believe in whole foods, and a processed oil is still a fragmented food. It's gone through a processing process. So the best oils to have are those that are in whole natural foods, which is your avocados, your nuts and seeds, and you'll get all your essential fatty acids out of those. You don't have to worry about essential fatty acid deficiency.
And durian.
Durian. Yeah. Well, I don't get durian where I live.
What's that?
It's a tropical fruit. It's supposed to be like, the aphrodisiac of all fruits.
It does smell.
It's got a terrible smell, but it tastes divine. Yeah.
Why is it that some people who go on a predominantly raw food diet might have problems with their teeth with regards to decay?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, the whole thing about teeth. Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't had any problems with teeth. In fact, my dental health has improved. Since I've been to checkups every year, and I haven't had one new filling. The only problem I have is that old fillings fall out. But it could be because they're actually on an imbalanced raw food diet, like they're eating too much citrus fruit, too much sweet fruit. They don't know how to apply a raw food diet in a balanced manner. They're not eating enough greens, and thus perhaps not getting enough calcium in their diet. Most people I've read about who've had severe dental problems have been people who've lived on pineapple and oranges for months, or eat a packet of dates regularly. But people who tend to balance it out with fruits, green leafy vegetables, and nuts and seeds don't tend to have problems.
Did you experience any loss of weight?
Yes, definitely loss of weight. I've lost about 5 kilos of my cooked vegan weight.
Over which period of time?
Well, probably over a couple of years or so, the weight loss happened. But I'm not concerned about it because I'm energetic and I feel fantastic, and so what if I'm a bit skinnier? And the research actually shows that underweight is actually a bonus for health. It's not a negative for health.
Well, that's my major problem. I lost 3 kilos in 3 days.
In 3 days?
Yeah. And if I carry on over weeks or months.
Yeah, well, the experience is that initially when you're on a raw food diet, the body begins a sort of tearing down process of the old structure. And then later on, which might take up to 2 years, when the body's cleaned out more and ready to build up again, that a lot of raw fooders experience an increase of weight again. And it may be up to 2 years. So you may have to sort of slink around like a bit of a scarecrow for 1 to 2 years.
I was once down to 43 and it's getting a bit fast.
Yeah, and I've been down to 40, after I did a fast. For a week I was down to 40. Overall I've sort of, sure I'm sort of in a super lean category, but I feel fantastic, got good energy, so I don't worry about it,
It comes back again, Dana.
Pardon?
It comes back again.
Yeah, well, even if it doesn't, I don't care if I'm this thin, I feel good. And I think our body images have been distorted by looking at cooked food bodies. Cooked food bodies will be fatter, tend to have more weight on them because, when they want to fatten pigs up for market, they feed them cooked potatoes. When they want to keep them lean, they feed them raw potatoes. Now, there's, don't ask me what all the metabolic sort of causes of that are, but I think one reason is that all your systems are working more efficiently on a raw food diet. The food's digesting better. you've got your enzymes in your raw food that enable your body to digest more efficiently. And also, a raw food diet is not a calorie concentrated diet. Cooked foods are calorie concentrated because they've had the water content drained out of them. And whereas raw foods have their organic water content still in them. And apart from nuts and perhaps dried fruit, it's not a calorie concentrated diet. It's a very watery diet. And cooked food tends to be concentrated food, and that's why you put weight on a cooked food diet. But weight is not health. You've got to get away from this idea that weight is health. Weight, to a large extent, is disease. So,
what about drinking of fluids? There's been some comment about people who have changed to a raw food diet if they don't drink as much.
yeah, well that's right, because you're getting all your water in your fruit and vegetables, and I mean, I don't drink as much as I used to either. I mean, I still sometimes like to drink water in the morning. Often, well, I don't have any breakfast sometimes, so I just drink water instead. But certainly you need a lot less water. And I remember when I visited Renee up in Cairns a few years ago, I was amazed that he could walk in the tropical heat without any water at all. Whereas I still had my little water bottle as security, you know.
Yeah, but, it's not only due to the water in the fruit, by the way, Dana, it's also, and I think you know, it's the balance in your body of the sodium-potassium balance.
That's right.
Is balanced, and you don't need any more.
That's right, because you don't have all this excess salt in your system from the cooked processed foods. It's salt that makes you thirsty and causes fluid retention. Yeah, so it's a very good mineral balance you attain. And yeah, you don't need as much water anymore. But it doesn't mean you know that you can't drink water. I mean, and also if you're fasting, of course you're going to drink water. Any other questions?
Yeah, when you were talking about phytoestrogens, you mentioned that people should have soybeans or soybean products. And I just thought I'd better mention to people that these days we've got to be worried about this genetically engineered soybeans.
Yes.
37 people died and 1,100
we heard all about that yesterday, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't eat soybean products at all.
Well, if we get organic ones, certified organic.
Yeah, because they have to be cooked, you see, and as a raw food you can't have raw soybeans.
You can't have soy.
Yeah, I mean, they're okay foods for transition from...
Yeah.
But when you get to a raw food diet, because raw soybeans can't be eaten in a raw state, they tend to fall out of your diet. And I think they're hard to digest too because they're high in protein and high in fat. So, although they're good as a transitional food when you're coming off all the heavy foods, I think eventually if you keep going this path and want to go the raw food path, they'll tend to fall out of your diet. You don't need them for the protein. You get plenty of protein on a raw food diet. Yeah, they're not really necessary.
Just on that subject of protein, I think they say that a young growing child on mother's milk is getting about 3 to 5% protein. Do you think that's quite adequate for us to grow on, or do we need this 20-odd% that you get in?
Well, that's right, because the growing baby has the biggest need for protein because it's doubling its body weight every so often. We're not doubling our body weight every so often. We've built the building, we don't have to keep shoving bricks into it, you know. So really the studies have shown that an average weight man working physically hard all day actually only needs 20 grams of protein to remain in nitrogen balance. So, I mean, that's very low, 20 grams. Most people have 150 grams in their diet every day. Now, on a raw food vegan diet, you'll get between 40 and 70 grams a day. So there's plenty of safety margin there if you realise that you only need 20 grams to remain in in nitrogen balance. So there's plenty of, a big safety margin, even in a vegan raw food diet of protein.
So you were saying yesterday something about B12 being able to synthesise it from